So, hey, everybody. So, as we know, we're talking about the energies changing, life changing, things happening around the planet, all these things that are determining our barometer, determining endings of old, bringing in the new. But before we even know what the new is, we've got to go through a lot of deconstruction, a lot of disassembly, a lot of crumbling, a lot of just plain out got to go. So, that's on the world level, that's on our community level, that's on our city and county level, that's on our personal level. Okay. So, without wasting a whole lot of time of what all that is, it's really calling for the badge of honor. It's calling for the badge of action. So, if you're going to talk your talk and you want change to happen, you've got to have the courage to make the necessary actions of correction in order for things to be different. So, I know for me personally, I used to come up on the holidays and then I'd come up on the next holiday a year later and go, daggone it, not a lot's changed in my interpersonal life. And if I'm going to make changes, I'm going to do it now, right? So you can use whatever time frame you want, but if you don't start something today, your tomorrow just looks the same. It just does. So I recently had an opportunity to reconnect with someone I have not seen since the beginning of 2020. And so we had an opportunity to catch up. And I already had some intuitive hits on what was going on, but I had only because it was intuitive. I had no idea the magnitude of what she was about to share with me. But this beautiful, beautiful woman, excuse me, is she's from another country. She's been here, goodness, several decades. Successful in the industry in New York. Divorced, raising her son here in the DC area. Lucky enough to meet someone else and to fall in love and to get married and combined homes. And he was divorced and had two boys at the same age as her child. And so it was like an instant family, right? An instant family. And totally respecting the fact that these boys also had a mother, right? So there was a spouse in the baggage. And so, being the loving, kind person she is, she's bouncing through life and comes up on the, what we want to call the in-house jail. We were both placed in there for a while. When you're around people 24/7 or people are bored in their homes, they have a tendency to bring out the not so nice side of themselves. And so things were changing, dynamics were changing. And so as much as this friend of mine was holding together things with so much love and, just letting things happen the way they're happening and go with the flow because that's this person's natural constitution. Until you start hitting a respect chord. And the respect chord was hitting enough where she saw it affecting her own flesh and blood child. And in a moment, she decided, okay, that's it. The bucket's full, done. I love all of you guys, but unfortunately, living under the same roof isn't going to work anymore. So within a splickety second, that self-respect button was hit and boom, changes were made. And she up and moved out and got her own place and still is in a loving relationship with these people once the forgiveness things set in, right? But realizing that you can love someone and not live with them and be okay with all of that. But the whole point of all of this is changes had to be made, and they had to be made quickly because they're hitting core issues, core buttons. We wake up one day and we're like, nothing's changed. And I can't change anyone else. I can only change myself. And for all you mothers out there, you know that we self-sacrifice constantly for the stability of our children. And that's all got to stop too. Because we may need to make the necessary moves in our life to take action to relocate ourselves in a physical way, which locates the mental, spiritual, etheric, and emotional bodies that can't be tampered with anymore. They can't be poked and prodded at anymore. We're not going to allow it. We can't align and be with our God, source, original, authentic self when we've allowed the participation in these different avenues that are not giving us the inner nurturing and the self-respect that we want within ourselves, much less what we are instilling in our children. If we can't be the living, walking, breathing example of that, change has to happen. So many people you've heard throughout the last couple years have had endings of relationships between friends, jobs, families, interpersonal, intimate relationships. So many things are calling people to step up and to make a difference and to stop living in status quo, groundhog, repeat, repeat, repeat. And the only difference is the years changed, the months changed, but nothing else in that world has changed until you step forward and really sift through all the stuff that isn't serving you. And what isn't serving you is very well affecting your offspring. And there are people in relationships that don't have the courage to end things. And they will wait for the other person to drop the axe. And then they're almost relieved. And sometimes behavior will build up because they're hoping that the other person is just gonna be the bad guy. So you can wait till all of those things happen, just like you can be in a miserable job and you can wait till something happens and you get fired, and that's ridiculousness when you can change things inside and out during all of these situations that don't have to end with more trauma, creating a longer running series of drama. You can get that on television. Watch a soap opera, okay? You don't need to have that in your own physical avatar anymore. And we've had a lot of people pave the way that divorce is okay, right? So we've had a lot of people pave the way that having more than one or two jobs in your lifetime is okay, right? So let's drop the stigma. Let's drop the perception. Let's drop the opinions of criticism and all those things that someone's life doesn't appear so perfect. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. You know, I've lived these things myself because I'm a person of inner conviction. And when things are not working, I will absolutely make a change. And I am sometimes very betwixt and bewildered at the people who just sit in their own sewer, their own quicksand, and or their own inner battles of why my life isn't happy. It's because you're not creating the happiness. You've participated in creating things that don't make you happy. So if you know they don't make you happy, okay, now you know what can make you happy when you make the changes. You know, that's why I always talk about good, bad, or indifferent. You really don't know the levels of good until you've had the levels of bad, right? And then how you have this barometer, the seesaw of what's in the middle, and then where you want to fall on all of your happy points. Where do you want them? Where do you compromise? Where do you make a difference? Where do you take action? Where do you make change? Okay? There should be no shame and freaking guilt in making change because contracts have been up for some time. Don't wait till someone else breaks the contract with you when you knew all along that contract should have been broken. Set the example for your children. I was one of the first on the divorce wheel in the 80s. And let me tell you something. It was not fun because there was no room for a divorced single parent in the early 80s. Very few people. There was no commiseration. Family was ashamed. I didn't look at it as a failure. I looked at it as I got out of an abusive relationship that I probably shouldn't have been in. And not only did I have a responsibility to myself and the divine creator of myself, I now had a child that I needed to step up. And I needed to be the living, breathing example of what it is to be responsible for your life. Not suffer along, martyr, and victimize myself because I was going to be ashamed that people were going to look at my marriage as a failure. I was too young and dumb. Who cares? Whatever. It is what it is. Relationships come together, no matter what they are, to teach you something. You have a choice in the inner meetings of any relationships on whether this is going to work or you need to end it. And hanging on to something you're not happy with is creating denser, lower frequencies, creating a whole litany of dis-ease, disharmony, disconnect. Because you think you're always doing something for someone else. And I speak of so many women who do this on the daily, right? No. We must teach ourselves to live in our respect. And the inner relationships or the intimate relationships we're in, we command that respect. And early on in the relationship, you do not allow things that pass that respect line. It's very difficult to get them back later. So before you feel yourself trapped and entrapped in something, think things through. Meditate on them. Get into your intuition. Don't do things because of any kind of peer pressure. And that happens, and I don't care what decade you're in. It happens. In one shape or form or another. You feel like you got to join in or you're going to be the oddball. And hey, I'm the oddball and I'm okay with being the oddball. And I'm okay with being the early pioneer to say no relationship. I will live my life alone and instill in my child more before I will allow this in my life. Okay? And sometimes this happens to us more than one time in relationships. Again, no shame, blame, guilt, dis-ease, disharmony, disconnect allowed into our lives. It's a decision you made. You participated in it. You own it. Now, how do you maneuver ways to remove yourself from what is going to create even more of a problem if you hang into it longer and longer and longer? Because it becomes the same day, but a different week, different month, different year. And nothing freaking changes. So be the change. Have the courage to step up and have discussions with people. Or just know when there just doesn't need to be a discussion. You just need to remove yourself from this family, this friends, this relationship, this job, whatever it is, this community, whatever it is. And then ask yourself, how am I learning the lessons through this as I maneuver my way? Because there's a whole new group of people for you to meet, a whole new group of jobs for it to come to you. And then so much more love is available to you because you've stepped up to be the change that is necessary to get to the next levels of life. Forget ascension. Forget the ascension thing. People are blowing that up just a bit much. Work on the reality of keeping things simple in your life And then in those moments of self-respect, you know that whatever it is that you do, sense, see, sense, feel, react, respond, you take full responsibility for it, but you make sure that you're doing it from a place of understanding yourself so that you don't have to come back and redo it. Okay? You don't have to go back and unwind and untwine the disaster if that's the level it's at. So, if I can help you in any way, it's kind of what I do. Yeah, so that's about it for today. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Start taking the steps, necessary steps today, the action and the courage to say, okay, what is necessary so that next week, next month, next year, my life is different. And I no longer have any albatrosses or anything. And I need to be the example to my children and my children's children. That it's okay to be alone. That you don't have to have everything the way every other cookie cutter stuff is. It's okay. It's okay. All right? Please like, subscribe, and share. Love your comments. And I will see you on the next video.